Speaking of the economy, did you know that the recession has been over for 15 months? That's true. It's got to be right. The White House said it, so it must be true. You know, I'm not so sure about that myself, although I do think things have improved and they're not going the wrong way for most of us, which is a good thing. But before I believe what the White House has had to say on this subject, I'd rather hear from a real expert, a franchise expert, somebody that we affectionately call the franchise economist. But I think more than likely he should probably be known as the Great Karnak. And here's why. It's hard to think back to the year 2007, but when we had this conference in 2007, Darrell Johnson forecast in his presentation that we were going to have a difficult 2008 for franchise development and a growing challenge. And remember, this was at a time when everything was going great. There was no end to the growth in sight, okay? So then, the next year, in 2008, just prior to the presidential elections, all the uncertainty that we were facing with the credit markets, and after Stuart Varney, the economist from Fox, had gotten up and said, you know, we can expect a mild recession, a relatively quick recovery. Well, Darrell forecast that we were going to go into a recession that would last beyond 2010, and the credit markets would take some time to recover and meet the balance of supply and demand for capital. Last September, he forecast a technical recovery in 2010. Is that a recovery? A technical recovery? But a very slow and choppy real recovery over the next several years. So, you know, he's been pretty right on for the last 3 years. That's why I think maybe he should be the Great Karnak. I'm just hoping he's going to say something really good today. So let's find out what Darrell has in plan for us for 2011. Darrell Johnson, the president of Frandata.
You're hearing Changes by David Bowie. Thank you, Robert, for doing that. Can you handle the truth? Yeah, I'm not convinced you can. So what I'd like to do, all the sharp objects, pass them to the aisles. Franchise update people are going to pick them up and move them back. Now, what we're looking at is a very difficult economy, and it isn't going to be an economy that's going to turn around quickly. We, I think, are starting to believe that, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about several different things, but I'm going to start with this. Here's the raw truth. And that doesn't sound very good, does it? This is Time magazine in September. Oh, 1992. Guys, we've been here before. We've had this type of challenge before, and we know that we recover from it. The question is not whether we're going to recover. The question is the timing of the recovery. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with the end of this presentation, and we're going to look at the three main themes that I want you to remember out of this. First of all, we are looking at a multi-year period of uncertainty in the economy and choppiness that is going to be protracted. And I will give you some reasons why I think that's the case and let you decide whether that's the case. If it is the case, then that suggests within the franchise community that we have to start changing our behavior to adapt to that. And I'll give you some solid examples of what I think are already happening in franchising, but they're happening and will continue to happen as a consequence of the change that's going on in the economy. And finally, competition for credit. And notice I have said competition for credit this year. In the last couple of years, I've been talking about the financial crisis, the credit crisis. Well, that's largely starting to work its way through, and we'll touch on some things where now we're moving into the competitive arena where the supply of capital is still less than demand. We are now in a competitive situation where capital is starting to come back in, and what some of the things are that we can do about it. So those are the 3 points that I'll end with, and now you know where I'm going to